What's up, YouTube? We are back again with another video. I'm going to try to keep this one as short and sweet as possible, but this video is going to be about just being resourceful. So when I started my business, I actually purchased my first truck off of Facebook Marketplace, and it was a 2010 Chevy, it was a 3500 Express. Now I paid $3,000 cash for this truck. It's a box truck, so it looks something like this. Obviously not like that. Let's see if we can find another example. But I purchased this truck for $3 grand, and I used it for 1 full year. Never had any issues with it. It did everything that I needed it to do. You know, it made noises. You know, it had its it had its own personality. You know, it's a $3,000 truck. You know, what do you expect? But it did everything that I needed it to do. And so that's pretty much what this video is going to be about, is being resourceful. So the truck looked exactly like this one, and the cool thing about, not cool thing, but the thing about these Chevy Express trucks is they have not changed the body style for over 10 years. And so I bought a 2010 that looked exactly like this. See, this is a 2018. It's, you know, $35,000. The one that I bought had 150,000 miles, so it had 100,000 more miles than this one. However, you know, when it comes to heavy duty trucks, you know, you can get 500,000 miles out of these trucks as long as you take care of them. And so what I see a lot of new business owners do is they don't go to places like this. They'll go, you know, to Google and find, so this is a Chevy 3500 box truck. They'll go and they'll, you know, find a dealership that's selling one of these, and you know, whether they'll buy it new or they'll buy it used, you know, they'll go and buy something from here. Now, keep in mind, I spent $3 grand for my truck. It was a new business. I didn't fully understand what it was that I was doing, but I think starting my business that way kind of put us in a position to make risk, to take on risk, and to grow much faster than if I was to go this route. Now, a lot of this boils down to how much capital you have to start with. You know, so if you got an inheritance and you got $100,000 to burn, you know, you can go and get one of these and still have, you know, enough cash to have a runway to make mistakes and stuff like that. But me as a numbers guy, even if I had $100,000 to start with, I would still head over to Facebook Marketplace and grab one of these trucks for under $5 grand, just to be able to, you know, kind of see if what I'm trying to do makes sense. Is there money in it? You know, can I, you know, grind this business out to get to the point to where there's money in it? When people look at, you know, entrepreneurship, it's often scary, simply because people bite off more than they can chew. You know, I see all the time, you have these, you know, lawn care guys that are driving $60,000, you know, Chevy trucks. You know, how much grass do you have to cut just to pay that truck off? You know, and so that's how I kind of look at, you know, business. If I can purchase a truck that's $3,000, you know, your average move is going to be, you know, $800. You can do 4 moves and pay for that truck, right? Now, if you're driving around in a $60,000 truck, that drastically changes, you know, your let's call it your payoff rate. You know, like, how much do I have to make to just break, you know, even on the equipment that I purchased to then make this money, right? So all the trucks that I have within my company were all purchased on Facebook Marketplace, and the trucks that I like to buy are Isuzu. I like to buy Isuzus, the older years that don't have any DEF systems or DPF systems, and the reason for that is just one less thing to worry about. You know, DEF systems are very costly, and if you don't maintain them to the T, and even if you do, you know, they at some point have issues and they're an expensive fix. Same thing with DPF, which is on diesel trucks. It's a filter that they put on there to kind of, you know, help to clean the you know, emissions better. But those things, you know, make your truck don't last as long as it could if it didn't have those things. And so I purchased trucks that are pre-emission, that don't have these systems, and it just works out well in the long run. And so the second truck I bought was an Isuzu NPR. I spent $8,000 on that truck. After working that truck for some time, I bought another truck. It was an Isuzu FTR, which is the bigger version. That was around 10 grand. I recently bought another one, which was within the same, you know, price And I kind of just work each truck and just allow them to pay for the next truck. But just let me give you an example for what I'm talking about, and we're going to use this 2002 for an example. So this 2002 Isuzu FTR is $12,500. Let's see how many mileage it has. It has 200,000 miles, and so if this truck was maintained properly, you can easily get another 200 to 300,000 miles out of this truck. And so let's go and look up the cost for a 2025 version of that exact truck. Cool, so this is a 2019. Let's try to find a 2025. The reason I'm looking for a 2025 is a lot of business owners that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of brand new trucks like this with logos on them for sale on Facebook Marketplace. They go and purchase like the new version of this, right? So this is a 2025 Isuzu FTR. It has the DEF system, it has the DPF system, it has all the new emission regulation stuff that at the end of the day makes the truck less reliable and costs you a fortune. It's $113,000, $114,000, right? I bought the older version of this same exact truck that has already been depreciated with 200,000 miles on it for, call it $10,000 to $12,000, right? 200,000 miles, like I said, on these heavy duty trucks is absolutely nothing. I see these trucks all the time with 1,000,000 miles if you take care of them. So what does that drastically do to a business when you're running it that thin? First and foremost, your profit margins, right? You got to keep your overhead as low as possible. And this was the first thing that I did in my business that I think drastically made a difference. I didn't bite off more than I can chew. I took the time to, really learn the business that I was in, and also learn about the equipment that I would be using to then operate this business, right? And like I said, I see people, or business owners start off with so much responsibility, that will just in the end make entrepreneurship that much more of a headache. And it's already a headache. You're fully responsible for the breadth of your business. You're fully responsible for the people that work for your business being able to provide for themselves. There's just so many different parts of just keeping a business alive that, burying yourself in a hole by taking on a $115,000 loan versus paying for the same thing that's older in cash, which is what I did. It just drastically affects the way that you make decisions. It affects the way that you sleep at night, and it definitely, in my opinion, affects how fast your business can grow in a small amount of time. And so that's what I mean about being resourceful. Even if I have $100,000 to spend, whether I do or I don't, I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a brand new truck. I like to get trucks that, like I said, are depreciated, and then it just kind of leaves a lot more capital for you to do other things, whether that's marketing, building up your brand, getting the trucks wrapped, so that's one thing that I would say when starting a new business is to try to, run it as lean as possible. Try to make whatever capital that you have stretch as far as possible. If you have $10,000, I'm spending, at least $5,000 on a truck. The remainder is going to be spent on getting, all my licensing, CRMs, and all those things in place. And then you'll be, in a position to truly learn the business that you're in without just stressing about making payments, So tell me what you guys think about this video. This is just one, part of starting a business and being a business owner that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, peace.